Do you think that the New Testament and its stories about Jesus could be made up?
Yeah, I think that's possible.
We've covered quite a few miles since the start of our trip. We saw that agnosticism isn't the neutral option most people think it is. Then as we continued, we made the case for Christian theism and why it makes sense in light of the beliefs that reality demands. That conclusion, therefore, disqualifies any need to consider atheism. If we know that God exists, then there's no sense in examining a belief system that claims that he doesn't. Basically, proving a God exists is actually pretty easy. You might be thinking, hold up, John, you're just assuming that the Bible is a reliable source of belief. And you're right. Thanks for paying attention. You noticed that we didn't demonstrate that the Bible is a reliable source of belief. I mean, should we trust the whole Bible just because it shares a few similarities with reality? Listen, no book in history has been dissected and disputed more than the Bible. But you're probably still skeptical. So we're going to take a look at a key section of the Bible that, if true, can prove this whole thing is trustworthy. To do this, we'll consider 5 reasons why the New Testament gospel accounts are real and trustworthy documents. Let's dive in. Why does believing such a small section of the Bible help us believe the whole thing?
There are 3 things about the Gospels we know. They were written very soon after the life of Jesus Christ. Now, that means that myth did not have time to develop.
Do you think that the New Testament and its stories about Jesus could be made up? They could be just myths?
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I don't want to offend anyone
No,
or anything when I
that's
say
fine.
this. I think that they were created.
There were still plenty of people alive who would have known it was myth and who could have discredited any of those stories. The second reason we can trust the Gospels, they're too embarrassing. If someone is writing a bogus account of some religious figure so that they can start some new religion, they're not going to include details that are embarrassing about themselves.
When we look at the Gospels, they portray themselves as not the heroes. They're not very good. They're kind of the losers. They make bad decisions. That's called the principle of embarrassment. You ever heard of that?
No.
The principle of embarrassment says this: it's highly improbable that an individual wanting to report a true event will concoct details of the story that make themselves or the main character look foolish. If an individual is simply trying to report an event, they will probably just give the event with the embarrassing details and all. We see that all throughout the Gospels. And that's one of the reasons that we can believe that the Gospel writers actually wrote it, because they included embarrassing details about themselves.
We read where the writers had serious lacks of faith, they had moral lapses, sometimes they could be downright stupid. And Jesus oftentimes would get exasperated. So the writers did themselves no favors if they were writing a bogus account of a fake religion that wasn't founded on truth. A third reason we can believe the Gospels is they were too costly to the writers. Every writer suffered a martyr's death. Now, it would be very likely that if a person knew that what they had written was untrue and were about to be sawn in two, or dumped into a pot of boiling oil, or crucified upside down, or any other number of horrific deaths, at least one of them would have said, "Time out, I just made all this up." Not a single writer did that.
Why didn't they suffer all of these horrible things if they knew that what they wrote down was false?
I can't answer. I don't know.
Do you think it's likely for people to die for and give their whole life for a lie that they created and that they knew the whole time was false?
I definitely do not think that.
So after trying to prove that the Gospels are true, that's helpful for those 4 books. How does that have anything to do with the rest of the Bible?
Well, we just established that what is in the Gospels is true. And the primary truth that is in the Gospels is that Jesus of Nazareth was the Son of God. Let's start with the Old Testament. We know the Old Testament is God's revelation to man. The Gospels claim that Jesus is God. So that if the Old Testament had been wrong on anything, I think we can safely assume Jesus would have addressed that. He would have said, "Hey, you've been reading in the scriptures such and such. Let me tell you, that's not exactly the way it goes." Jesus never corrected the Old Testament. In fact, he quoted it very often. He taught from it. Now, going forward, Jesus, the Son of God, commissioned certain people to write the remainder of the New Testament. And by the way, for the most part, these were the same writers who wrote the Gospels, or the Apostle Paul, who wrote much of it, was intimately familiar with those eyewitnesses, looking backwards to the Old Testament, looking forward to the rest of the New Testament. Because the Gospels are true, and because the Gospels claim Jesus was God, we can know the entire Bible is true.
There are many other reasons to believe that the scriptures are reliable eyewitness accounts of actual historical events. But these reasons alone should be enough. So why are there so many agnostics and atheists still traveling the wrong roadways? Once again, the Bible gives us the answer in a book called Romans. This Bible book says that we humans actually have something hardwired into us that informs us that God exists. So why do we suppress the most obvious truth in the universe? Because we don't want to submit to God. We want to do our own thing without accountability. But hold up. If the Bible is the ultimate source of truth, then are all others wrong? Next on Road Trip to Truth.